All right, so responsive portfolio program management for tech leaders. When I say tech leaders, these are including the roles, not the executives, but including the roles like all of us here. There are program managers, product managers, engineering managers sometimes, because we always wear multiple hats. So this is actually really relevant to all of us, regardless of our title, because we manage a team in one way or another. So a little bit about myself. My name is Becky Flint. I'm a founder and CEO of Dragonboat.io. I have also been in program management for a very long career, but I actually been to different functions as well, being product management, being engineering. And I was lucky enough to have grown up with quite a few great companies, and PayPal's one of them, some of the smaller companies, Shutterfly, BigCommerce, etc. I worked with the team globally, over 100 countries actually. Interesting, remote work wasn't really that new, but it's much, much more common today. And as managing programs and their roadmaps, we experience a lot of challenges. So working with the many, many very smart people back in the days until now to build a framework to address them. And that's, we call it a portfolio program management. I wrote it out for PayPal long time ago and used it at many other companies, including those logos here. And the people I work with as a part of the journey, many of them have really taken the learning and the feedback brought into other companies, including Facebook, including Google, including Netflix. So this is really being practiced very much in many places. So today we're going to cover 3 basic topics. Why do organizations need a responsive PPM? How it works, and then more importantly, how it affects you? How would it make you a better leader? How would it also help you to grow your career? So without further ado, I want to quickly touch upon the challenges we have. I think this is probably very familiar to many of you. Agile analysts. It's not because the team, this happens when you start to have multiple teams required to deliver a product. And the process all of a sudden starts to stall, and then we spend a lot more time in meetings and in politics. And this is not just I feel this. If you look at the bottom, this image actually came from it published white paper from Spotify in 2014 about how they scaling and how they meet the challenges of managing agile teams. And then we really go back to try to figure out what the problem is. Again, this is not something that we experience just at one company, experienced at many, many companies. This is still coming from the Spotify white paper, and for us was recognized back in 2007, 2008. The root cause of this is the strategic misalignment. And the strategic misalignment doesn't mean we don't have OKR. OKR itself doesn't solve the problem. The OKR tells us where we want to be. But if we localize a strategy so that every team decides how we're going to get there, then we will have a strategic misalignment. And then that will cause that multiple teams have to deliver to the same OKR, or the same multiple OKRs will come to the same team. That makes it a lot more challenging. And the teams are also they're not given the resources they need to deliver what they need to deliver, because the needs of the company fluctuates. And the size of the team always the same, right? For most of us, we know, and that's really, really challenging. So that brings to us why we need to have responsive portfolio program management, because we not only have to empower our teams on where we want to be, the objectives, even more importantly, we need to empower our teams on how we get there at the strategic level. And we not only need to empower our team, we also need to enable our team. And that's our job as leaders, is more than just empower. We have to help our team to be successful. And that's where we need to enable them by identifying, finding, and negotiating adequate resources, and providing cross-team visibilities so they can be unblocked, they can have the path forward. Cliche-wise, we're all rolling same directions when we have our paddle with us, right? And by doing these 2 things, we can actually achieve the real agility across companies, that everyone sort of go in circles and try to make progress from that area. So with that said, let's touch upon a little bit on what is responsive PPM. So before we go down to responsive PPM, I want to share a little bit with you of a traditional portfolio project management. Again, the problem, now the challenges between sort of executive, the vision versus the team execution, it's not new, has been there since, probably 20, 30, 40 years. And there was a solution back in the days. The solution was called strategic planning. The strategic planning typically happens once a year. The executives will get together, decide on where we want to be, what's our financials, so we find out the budget and scope and all that good stuff. At the end of it, they create a list of the projects. That's why I call the portfolio project management. And that would basically hand it over to product managers, project managers, program managers, and all of us in the room, say, here's what we decided to do, go execute it. And as a part of the process, they also change how the resources potentially be aligned. So you have a bigger team in this area, smaller team in the other area, so that you can actually deliver the list of projects as that. And all of us are measured based on time, on budget delivery. So, obviously this is not gonna help in today's world, but that was a solution happened back in the days. There's something old, but there's something new, but the principle is the same. The principle, how we take that idea of strategic planning and alignment, as well as execution in a way that's more responsive. That would look at a portfolio instead of project, because we don't really have that many projects anymore, given the Agile movement. So what this one means is that we still have strategic planning, but it's not once a year. It will happen a lot more frequently. Strategic planning, we're not gonna be just executives, because executives don't have all the answers. Actually has to be done between the leaders and executives, so we can align on the objective we want to do. We can figure out what's the strategy to get there, so that by the time we go to the teams, we'll be set of programs. By the way, programs and initiatives is interchangeable. Initiative is the starting of the program. Program is already started, and we keep going. So that we will have a collaboration both at a strategic level between executives and the leaders like us, and also at the Agile execution level, there will be us and our team. So we tie these things together. We're the linchpin, actually tie the strategy and the execution, and then we use the outcome to drive the decision on next level. So we don't do it. If we look at a portfolio program management, how is it different from a traditional way? Is that we based our allocation alignment on the outcome we wanted to get to. We look at that from multiple time horizons, not just annually. We look at it as a set of the programs that deliver the outcomes that we decide that's most important for us. So it's still the OKR framework, but that will tie to what we do as the strategic level, what kind of initiative we will use to drive that OKR framework. And then one more thing here, we call it MOR, M-O-A-R, metric over available resources. If you look at it earlier, we have everything dollar. You have a dollar as the ROI that decide what we use to prioritize projects. You have a dollar as the budget for your team to deliver. But the reality is, how do we measure the dollar of, let's say, add a button? That does have a conversion impact, for example, but it doesn't really measure directly to how much revenue it's causing. Yes, you can do, but it's by the time it comes to revenue, it's all mixed up. It could be other things impact that as well. So that's the dollar way of measuring the benefit of the projects or programs. It's very limiting. The dollar budget is the other limiting factor, right? We all know how hard it is to hire engineers. We all know this engineer can do something that the other engineer cannot do. So we can't really use budget, financial cost as a way to prioritize the project. Again, it's a little bit removed from actually the boots on the ground, how team works. So the metric is the outcome we have to measure on. Is it improved conversion? Is it improved retention? Or other factors that we can directly measure based on the product and the program we're shipping. And resources is something we can directly measure based on the people we put on to working on these initiatives. We don't need to convert them to dollar and convert dollar to people, just a lot of layers of conversion. So that's the unique way of responsive portfolio management. Now let's use an example. So again, using the OKR framework, right? So our goal objective is to double our SaaS revenue in 18 months. So how do we get there? There are a couple of different considerations. One school of thought to say, hey, we need to build out more product features what we have today so that we can close more deals, so then we can obviously grow our revenue. The other one come over and say, we should build a new product offers because we have this new area, it's growing, we should get there. And then there's the third one say, hey, we need to modularize our product. We can have more partners to sell our product so we can get on the ground very fast. By the way, this example is real. This is a company I walked into a few years back that the teams get churned all over the place because they have all these different features they have to work on. So they're not really making progress in any of the dimensions. So the way we sit down was looking at all the features to realize they actually follow the 3 different initiatives: grow the current product, develop new product offering, or modularize. So we decided, okay, let's look at them. What these initiatives, how they're gonna get us to where we need to be, which is double our SaaS revenue. We realized to grow our current product, obviously milk the cash cow, will help us to grow revenue the fastest, at least for the year 1, maybe year 2. But that also means we're losing out in a new opportunity, new market that's growing very rapidly. So that if we don't get into that space, someone else may get in there and it may take the mind share of the people, even though this one doesn't get a lot of the cash or revenue growth in first year, but in year 2 and year 3, would have potentially become the future of the company. And then third one coming from modularize the product, it's definitely a risky idea. We don't even have the partner yet. We don't really know what they do, but we do know that it will help us expand our footprint much, much faster if we consider that. But we only have this much resources, what should we do? And this comes with something we call the portfolio alignment and allocation. We all know the concept of portfolio, right? Everyone has a financial portfolio. You have the stock, you have the bond, you have the large cap, a small cap. And the same thing we consider, it's different from the traditional PPM. Traditional PPM consider portfolio is a list of the projects. For us, we consider portfolio of different types of programs that deliver to different types of return. So our investments are our people, and our return could be metrics for things that don't generate a lot of revenue, but these metrics are super important for us because eventually they will lead to revenue. And then there are some of the metrics that are revenue driven. So we decided, again, real example, not naming the company, we decided for us to invest a significant amount of the resources, which is 70%. So we'll drive us 90% of the revenue goal, so then we can still achieve our revenue goal. But we put a smaller amount of the resource allocation for a new product because we cannot just invest in today. We have to invest in the future. Now, the new product would not generate as much of the revenue, even though they have a 25% of resource, they generate only 10% of revenue. So they cannot be measured only by revenue. They actually measured it by new product adoption metrics. And how much you get a pilot, how much you sign up, things, engagement like that. And the last one is a resale or pilot. There's no revenue benefit whatsoever, but we need to investigate is something we can do, is something gonna benefit us or not. So that's an even longer time horizon. So we put a smaller amount of the resources. Again, they're measured based on another set of the metrics to see whether something will be successful or not for the goal of the program. Each of the programs, as you can tell by now, they have different goals. And these goals will be used to measure how they would perform and then what do we do next. So yeah, so that probably look pretty familiar to you. There's nothing special about it. So what is special about this responsive portfolio program management is that it is responsive. Responsive means we don't just set up once and we forget about it. We actually set up once, we come back to visit on a periodic basis. It could be, every 2 months, every quarter or whatnot, based on the frequency, based on your company's operating rhythm and how quickly you can get metrics. So, and also remember, until the product is on the market, the move in the metric has nothing to do with the product. So, don't take that as the only reason as to what the product may or may not performing. So, that's about 6 months later. What we realized is the revenue from a core product is way ahead of the plan. We don't need to build more features. The product is just basically selling. So we really scaled down much of the resourcing, go to that space. At the same time, the driver is that, we saw the reseller pilot, which it was considered as a risky bet. We found a new partners. We found what they need changes on the product side, so that we can quickly go to market with these guys in a couple of quarters. So we made a portfolio rebalancing, right? So we know we balance our financial portfolio. It's the same thing. We also balance our resource allocation between programs based on the outcome that program was leading to, so that we can actually focus on new product areas and reduce some of the areas that would otherwise be focusing. So now I hope that makes sense to you. Now let's go back to the basics. Okay, so people wonder, what do we do? What we do is that we build product, right? We deliver customer value, we deliver business value. Is it true? We only empower the team, we enable a team. Actually deliver and then building the product actually is our team. Therefore, our job is really to build a team, empower a team, and enable a team. And that is actually the concept of responsive PPM, right? We need to make sure our teams are empowered and make sure that our team has the strategic alignment. They have the resource allocation to do their job, and also make sure that someone helped them to remove bottlenecks and ensure execution and make adjustment along the way, so that we can actually deliver business value together as a team. And that we are the ones that are helping them to get to that point. So this is how we enable our team. Our job is more complicated in some ways, right? We're dealing with more than just one objectives. It's a portfolio of objectives. They're competing with each other for the same attention and resources. We also have a portfolio of the markets and the customers. They are also competing for our limited resources. And then we have a portfolio of our stakeholders. They all have their ideas, they have their strategy, they have their themes, they are coming to us. So in the end, we're the ones, are the portfolio managers. We're the portfolio managers managing all these different elements and facets, so that we can create our quote unquote roadmap. And these roadmaps actually are bets. They're not something we know for sure. Therefore, we have to constantly adjust, allocate, to make sure this is the best portfolio for the time where we are in the company at this stage. So go back to the example we had earlier. So we already know there are three types of programs we could be working on, we are working on. We also know the time horizon as well as the risk level these initiatives have it with them. What we didn't call out was actually who are the ones that behind are the main drivers of those initiatives. Obviously, the VP of sales in US, they have a bigger market. They can go, getting more customers. They want to have more product to get to the more customers, more features. Now the VP of sales in Europe want to have a new product because the market is relatively small. They want to have a new product sell to the existing customers if they can, or have bundled offers and stuff. And then the third one comes from a new hire executive from a head of BD. Obviously, their biggest focus is to sell more to the partners. So this demonstrates that understanding and then managing a portfolio not only is important to the business outcome, it's also very important for our own performance and a career inside of our company. So here is a study from McKinsey. What they did was to take a sample of, I think it's over 1,000 leaders, have a survey on what kind of sort of the leverage, what kind of activities they have to perform to drive business impact and also what kind of activities they have to perform to drive a career impact, help them with their careers. The ones that are not listed here are managing yourself or mobilizing yourself. Because all of us, obviously we have to manage our work, we have to mobilize ourselves to get better at learning. But a lot of our contribution and the growth are based on how we mobilizing our bosses. What does the mobilizing bosses mean? Mobilizing bosses really means we will drive strategic alignment, will help them make better decisions, will provide them visibilities. So these are part of the things that we get our bosses to help and align and support the initiative that we'll be working on. And the second part is very interesting. It's called mobilizing our colleagues. Some of us are being program management tend to be more collaborative, but not everyone knows or learn or understand how important it is between program managers and between program managers and product managers, between product managers and engineering managers. These are our colleagues. In today's world, nothing is built by one group. There are teams doing this a very handoff way, saying, hey, I have product managers that prioritize something, they hand it over to engineering will estimate it, and they hand it over to program manager will execute it. If you go the quote unquote the old way, you're not really mobilizing your colleague to be part of the process in terms of deciding and building a roadmap together. That would actually, based on the data, you can see how important it is not only to drive the business impact that you get the buy-in, it's also very, very important to help you to drive your career impact. The example we saw earlier, right? So this example, so these guys, your VP of sales and we, in BD, they're not necessarily our direct boss, but in some way they're both our colleagues, cross-functional leads, and also our boss, right? So understanding how to work with them using a data-driven portfolio program management framework and a outcome-driven win-win sort of the negotiation, right, data-based, we will be able to have them buy in so that people will understand why we prioritize and move certain resources in certain areas, not the other areas, so that you get their support and it's still driving business and value over the course. So here is a quick recap on responsive PPM. A responsive PPM really is an outcome-driven portfolio collaboration framework. It is outcome-driven instead of a list of the projects that will only deliver on time, on budget, right? And it's a portfolio collaboration because we involve both our immediate executives and cross-functional executives, as well as our colleagues who work with each other. So then we can really align our objectives. And then we also align how we get to there, which is the strategic alignment. And then we can allocate the resources and initiatives within our own team and between our team with the other teams. And then based on that information for the execution and the outcome coming through the execution, we can make adjustment on our roadmaps, on resource allocation, on initiatives that we have at hand, because the goal of the program is not on time, on budget. There's no time, there's no budget. The goal of the program is the outcome. If we can achieve our outcome ahead of schedule or on time, that's where we decided whether we're gonna go forward, we're gonna continue, or we're gonna pause, or we can wrap it up, basically, if we achieved our outcome earlier. So key takeaway, every organization and every leader runs a multifaceted portfolio, even if you only have one product, because you have a portfolio of objectives, you have a portfolio of customer segments, you have a portfolio of different stakeholders. And all these competing demands, if we don't manage very well, they will churn our teams. There's no filter through them, there's no guidance for them. It will affect our own results because our teams are churned, and obviously our company's results as well. So adopting this process basically is connect strategic planning. By the way, this strategic planning is not very well understood in the program management space, because typically it's really being done, not just program management space, actually mostly it's done at a very high level, executive level, once a year in the past. But we need to bring this down to a more frequent way so that we can actually tie strategy, objective, and the resource together. And that will really work well with Agile execution. So then we can drive our portfolio performance and team performance much, much faster and responsive. So just a quick overview on this is what we do today. If we know how we work on how we do portfolio collaboration, even if we know how to do it, it's done by spreadsheet, which is very painful. And that's why I started a company called Dragonboat. Dragonboat is enabling portfolio collaboration for leaders. So you can see very clearly what kind of initiatives we're working on, how it drives different set of business values, and how the allocation could happen in real time. So I think that's it. I'm going to pause presentation and would love to hear questions from all of you.
Thank you so much, Becky, for giving this overview. A lot of that was very helpful and a lot to also digest. I am very new to, I've been program manager for several years. And recently I was asked to implement PMO office at my company. I work at Zenefits, to someone internally in the company to, listen to your webinar. I think today I was just really looking at to get more help on, or if somebody can point me to, how to really like set up. I know there are lots and lots of resources available online, from really setting up PMO office in a company, creating a PMO playbook and things like that. I've been doing a lot of research online, but with you and other experts, if there are, what's the best way or a great resource to help me guide to quickly implement this, PMO office and apply it to few projects. I have tons of projects on my plate, but I want to pick few and like really apply most of the methodology you talked about.
Well, congratulations, first of all. It's great that you have the opportunity to set up a PMO office. And it's great that you are also reaching out to the community. I think that's a great sign because you will have a better chance to build it right. You're right. The newer word of the program management works very different from the traditional ones. I more than happy to talk to you offline in more details if you're interested. Just send me an email. But in general is that I call it a full service program management office include more than just the execution. A big part of that is actually the framework on how the execution will be done. So it will include, for example, the entire life cycle of the programs, include how the planning will be done, how the tracking will be done, how the cadence will be set up. So I think one of the things, I would not say, my content is the only one, but if you're interested, you can also search up something called a startup program management, and that will share a little bit more on building and scaling a startup program management office.
Okay. Startup program management?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the Dragonboat, the company that you run, is that, again, I'm still doing research on tools, but this is like one of the tools for project tracking. And sorry, I should have looked at it more before this, but just, listening to what you said, it's really managing projects and, putting in companies' strategies and aligning that with those. Just a little bit more about your tool.
Yeah, very good question. So Dragonboat was started really as a tool for program managers. I think Jamie raised hand. Did I mute you, Jamie?
No. I just was raising my hand because I thought maybe I could help her answer if somebody who's used your product. So basically, it's sort of this full stack solution for strategic alignment, and down to like the tactical implementation. They integrate with Jira. But basically, you know, you have your goals, you align everything to your goals, you have your teams, your pods, and you can align projects in that way as well. And then you can also drill down into resource management, which is a piece that's missing from a lot of competitors. Our company is using Portfolio because it lays on top of Jira, and we have to use the system version. We can't use any cloud products, or else I would have pushed to use Dragonboat, because we are using 10,000 feet for resource management and Portfolio for road mapping, and strategic alignment is kind of just a checkbox on our projects, since we associate our OKRs by project. But the infrastructure that is configured through Dragonboat is incredibly helpful, specifically as you're onboarding new employees. And, you know, when I used it at my last company, I basically coached the product managers into using it because the company didn't necessarily value program management, which is why I left. But basically, you know, it is kind of a set it and revisit it situation. It's honestly, I would totally recommend it for a smaller company in particular. It was really nice to bring to light that the strategic side was missing at my organization. So I basically led OKR building, and to ensure that we were working on the right stuff at the right time. And it really does do all of those things. It checks majority of those boxes. So I would definitely regroup with Becky and get a demo.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Annabelle. I'm glad you brought that up because I do have a question. I think the main reason why I joined is because, so my title today is Technical Project Manager. So I work a lot with the engineering group, but as I'm in the automotive industry, and so we're being impacted a lot. So as these projects are kind of being expedited, there does seem to be a lot of strategic alignment and like a little bit more eyes into what the strategy is and what the OKRs are, which wasn't happening before in our projects. So I think the main question I have is, as a technical PM today, what can I do to obviously get these projects out, but align closer with the executives that are on the projects? And all that, for me, it's more of like a personal goal to understand how to transition into program management, because that's still pretty new to me. We don't have that in our company. I want to know what I can do today in my projects, so I can get that better understanding. And also more long term, I am looking into transitioning into a new company that and having this kind of under my belt.
That's awesome. It's great to hear, Annabelle. And I think that it's happening where fewer of us are adding value in just the project management. We're actually adding a lot more value by being program management and even more upstream to the portfolio management. The reason is by the time a project already decided and then to execute, especially if in the Agile world, the value that we can create to make it deliver, quote unquote, on time, on budget is a lot smaller. Now, obviously, automotive industry could be different if you have a very large cross-functional and sort of waterfall-ish kind of project. Project management is still a very, very important skill, and I think that everyone needs it. But if you either go out of your space, or if you have lots of digital and a very agile type of the initiatives, then program management would become a lot more valuable because it becomes more fuzzy, right? You can almost think about from the strategy to initiative to execution. It's kind of like it's almost like a process, right, from left to right. And our role is become more and more towards the left side, because that's where we can add a lot more impact by working with other project managers on alignment, working with our partners in product or engineering and a business on what we should be focusing on. And so these are definitely elements of the program management. It's funny because today, all project managers actually are program managers, because you manage more than just one project, right? You do trade-offs and make sure all of them happen at the same time. So same thing, people don't necessarily realize every program managers we have today are managing a portfolio. We just need to really focus on that. Now, also for product managers are also manage portfolio and the program, right? Because you do have to manage your business outcome. You do have to manage multiple initiatives at the same time. Partner, maybe if you're lucky to have someone dedicated to be a program manager, or sometimes you're on your own. So understanding this and having, I personally believe you have a tool to automate the work that you need to do, you can become a lot more value add and then more visible. In many ways, Jamie was mentioned earlier that sometimes the program managers are not being recognized as valuable is because we're so busy doing things that don't seem to create value. But if we can automate all the busy work, the resourcing, the planning, and the reporting status, then we'll have a much, much better time to create value. Solving real problem require human intelligence, and then we become more visible, be valued.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
Welcome. So I think there was a question on the fundamental difference between portfolio and the program management. I kind of alluded to earlier a little bit on. So if you think about, someone can give you a philosophical discussion, just like what's a story, what's an epic, right? You can say epic is a very big story. Same thing if you say program is just a very big project with lots of moving pieces, and portfolio just a very big program has lots of moving pieces. You can almost say that. The interesting thing about the program and portfolio management is that portfolio tend to last a lot longer. Sometimes will last forever, right? Forever of the life of the company. A program always have some sort of an end date. So you could have a set of initiatives. The program is set out such so that you can achieve certain goals. Let's say the program is like, you could have a growth program. The idea of the growth program is to drive your growth rate by X%. So that program will last a certain amount of time until you hit that target goal. Or your program is performing so poorly, you would just end it early. So that's sort of the program management, the elements of things to think about your resource and outcome measure. Portfolio tend to be lasting a lot longer. So we could have the portfolio of, you could have a portfolio say, hey, if we have a portfolio in terms of goals, it could be portfolio of retention, revenue growth, and operation experience, excellence, cost management. So that could last forever. You just periodically check in to make sure that it's delivered to our initial target.
I have a question, but just a comment. I really do appreciate what you walked through today, and I like that you highlighted how making this visible really will help us advance our careers as well as help provide value to the business overall. So I think that's really important, and I'll definitely be looking more into the program and see if it might be a good fit for what we're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally hear you. I think, personally, I've been from, working in product management and then project management all the way through my career to, later on leading, become the VP of program management strategic planning in several companies. And my interview question with the CEO has always been like, what do you guys do? What's a program manager? Why we need a VP of program management? What kind of value you do add? And I have to really prove to them that program management actually is the backbone of the company, making the right decisions, allocate the right resources to the people. And because I was able to set up a framework that are relatively streamlined and automated, so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time to do busy work, and then be able to provide business value early on, so they can see and say, okay, wow, you actually, and now I realize program management is really important, really turn around our execution, turn around our strategy. And I'm sure that's what you guys do today already. It's just really hard to make it visible. So that's why we're trying to make both the professional program management understandable, and also using tools to make your job less busy and more strategic.
Yep, definitely agree.
Cool.
Hi, Becky. Thanks again for sharing all of this. It's awesome. If we come into an organization and let's say, yes, bring this into the fold, bring this into the process, what is the best way to approach it so that it doesn't cause too much churn? Because, you know, if we do a lot of changes, we know we're going to have changes. We know there's going to be a decrease in efficiency for a certain amount of time. What is the best approach to take so that not everybody is shocked?
Mm-hmm. This is a very excellent question, Patrick, and I think it actually makes it's a very, very important for a lot of newer program managers, or you go to a new role, is not to boil the ocean. And there's something we call it a minimum viable process. What that means is we would just, program managers, the same thing as product managers, in a way that we build a product. That product is called a process framework. That product is used by your entire organization you interact with. So make sure when you build that process product, it's going through the MVP process, find out the most pain point, and find out the ways to least amount of change to address that. Every organization is different, so I can't tell you do one way or another. But with the mindset, say, where's the biggest pain point? Everyone's ready for a change and looking at it already. The other part is to find your little wins, right? Find your little wins, small wins, find your like a pilot group that people open-minded want to work with you. Still pilot your product. Again, just like a product, right? Make small changes, get people to get buy-in, pilot something, and try not to change existing workflow if it works okay. Okay, there was a question about how we automate some of the mundane tasks. So using the tool. So a couple of things that we have here. One is almost all of us provide status updates, right? And it's, you know, our job in many ways to provide visibility upwards to tell our leaders, cross-functional teams, and also provide visibility downwards to tell the team what's the strategy and execution. So the idea is that every team today has already a tool to do their work. It could be a Jira, being GitHub, being something. And a lot of things that we have to do, literally some of my customers, either consulting and or using our product, they literally have to create this kind of Gantt chart-like thing, that PowerPoint. They can move things from one to the left to say, here's the progress we make. These are the objectives. These are the initiatives underneath it. We can, using a tool, could be my tool, could be something else, to say, these are the objectives, here are the initiatives, here are the epics, and here are stories. And then we pull all the things, for example, directly from the tool your team's working on. So you can see progress real time, and it's rolled it up to the level of the portfolio and the program. And then you can draw it down to the level of individual tasks. Just that alone will save tons of time. I know that because I've spent so much time to do a little PowerPoint to move things every ops review, so we know what progress we made, right? Things like that will help us to say, one is to minimally impact your existing team's work because they already have the framework. Maybe we need to make some fine tuning and standardization, but we should do it minimally. But then that will enable us to see the benefit, which is visibility at the roll-up level and the drill down level. So that becomes the win for you to take it to other teams. Say, I want to see how it happens in other teams. Because program managers, very interestingly, we do two things, right? We plan and track project. We also provide visibility. And the providing visibility, for a large part, is the outcome of what we do. But because we have to do a lot of work, then we don't have time to do the visibility. Therefore, we become less visible. By at least at the last mile, which is provide visibility, that part automate, and then we can spend more time in terms of planning and tracking, because that really needs time. And also, you know, simplify that in a different way. I'll share in a different time. But they'll give us ability to actually see, to make our work visible, and have the rest of the organization enjoy to connect the objectives and strategy to the execution in the way they can visualize. Okay, if we save a lot of time, what's the intelligent work a program manager can do to prove their value to management? There are a couple of things I want to highlight. So the challenge for program managers is not that different from the challenge of product manager, in that there are different organizations would have different needs. Even the same organization have different needs as over time. So what we need to find out as a program manager is to, instead of by the book, to do what we supposed to do. the most successful program manager I've seen and met in my career has always been, they will find the most painful problem for the organization. For example, they always start streamlined, make the Agile team work better. They have a better Jira setup. They have a better scrums and better predictability. They will do the first part to make the team to be successful, less buggy, have a reporting. And then they move the next one, say, okay, the next one will be something to say, hey, how do we work with the cross-functional team? So the cross-functional team will get our product, understand when we go to market, and solving dependency issues. And after that, you do the next one, say, how do we do quarterly planning so we can address different demands, for example, from different VPs, different groups, different customers. So program manager's job is very fluid. We always find the most painful thing early on to address that. And then we move to the next painful thing and then move to the next painful thing. And along the way, you can find where your value lies. And then, the next thing you would do is, start building a team and mentor, coaching others and things like that. So one little career secret is to think about trying to be part of the strategic offsite. When you come to the point you can lead and drive strategic offsites, that would make your position, organization, a lot more valuable, because the strategic offsite, again, have so many stakeholders, there's so many opinions, there's so many things, and the outcome of that will drive the rest of the execution. So, but we don't get there in day one. The question and the value we can prove is we prove that we can show the organization we can execute. We can show the organization we can work with the cross-functional teams. We can show the organization we understand the business and the product and execution. By that time, you will be the de facto person triage and working with everyone else in different functions. So by the time you're leading the strategic offsite, maybe for your product areas, maybe for your organization, maybe for the whole company, but that's where you help yourself not only establish your career, also help yourself to basically grow your skill sets in a very different level. Basically, that's what the CFO and the COO will be doing at the company level. All right, I think we're on time. Any questions from anyone, feel free to ping me, and I'll post the recording as well. So thank you very much for joining us today, and would love to hear from you on your feedbacks and other things we could do. And we don't have a Responsive PPM certification program yet, but my intent is to create one so that make program management a real role, has a real certification actually to apply to today's world. So if you're interested, happy to talk to you and get more ideas around this.
Thank you so much. That was great, Becky.
Thank you. Have a good one,
Becky.
everybody.
Thanks, you too.
Cheers. Bye.